Welcome to the Global Stamping Video Hop. I haven't participated in a long time, but I'm excited to get on this month and show you a card that I created for the hop this month. We are featuring all kinds of blending, or layering, sorry. And layering can be lots of things. Layering papers, layering cardstock, layering inks, layering stamps, all kinds of things. But this month I decided to feature a fun technique featuring layering different ink colours using our blending brushes. So I wanted to come on and show how you can layer lots of different colours together to create a really cool look. I have featured one of my favourite bundles. This was released, I think it was earlier this year, and it is the Waves of Inspiration stamp set. It does come with some dies, but I'm not going to use those today. I've actually combined it with another bundle, which is the Paradise, I think it's called the Paradise Palms or something. It comes with some dies, and I'm going to bring in the palm tree stamps and dies for this one. But the sentiment I've used comes from the Waves of Inspiration stamp set. So I'm going to get started and create the base piece for the card, which is where the layering comes in. So I'll get started. I've already cut out some of my pieces for my card. So I have a side folding card base out of basic white thick, and I've got some pieces here for my inside. So in metric measurements, I've cut my black layer to 14.3 by 9.9, and my white layer is cut at 14.1 by 9.7 centimeters. And then for the top of my card, I have to remember this one because it's a layer I don't normally use. It's 8.5 by 13 centimeters, and the black layer is cut at 8.7 by 13.2. Wow, I did remember it. So I have to apologize for my hands. I had an allergic reaction to something, so my hands are looking rather gross. I'm trying to get that under control. It's rather embarrassing. So I'm going to get started and take my white smaller layer. And I'm just going to grab a little piece of grid paper because I'm going to get messy and I don't want to mess up my desk too much. So I'm just going to grab a piece of that. This is just the small grid paper that goes with our Stamparatus, which I find really handy for just small jobs like this. So I have actually gone ahead. The first thing I want to do is stamp our wave from the Waves of Inspiration stamp set, and I find it easier when doing big stamps like this to do it in my Stamparatus because I can then go back and give it a couple of goes if I need to. So I think I've lined it up. Yes, I have. So I have already lined this up, but I'm going to stamp it 1 centimeter in on both sides. I'm just going to use my magnet. Now I'm excited because I got this today, which is the Embossing Editions toolkit, but I may not open it and use it for this one because I'm already set up to do it the way I normally do it. But I'm just going to grab, I do have an open embossing buddy, but now we sell these again, which has been a long time, so that's exciting. I'm just going to lay that on top, and then I'm going to grab my Versamark ink pad. And I'm just going to ink up my wave using my Versamark and then stamp that one back down, really pressing into that corner. And I'm going to gently lift that up, and I found it best with big stamps and Versamark. I tend to go over it twice. So I'm just going to stamp that again. Then I can pull this out of my Stamparatus. I'll pop that to the side. And now we want to add our embossing powder, which for this card I'm going to use white. So I actually have my embossing powder in a little tub, and I take it out of its original little containers, but I could sprinkle this over the top of the new tray and it would be cool as well. But for the sake of this video, I'm just going to do this. Okay, so I've got all of my embossing powder on top of my wave there. I'm going to pop that aside. And I'm just going to pull in my heat gun, which you may not be able to see because the cord's actually not going to reach the table. So I'm just going to heat this to the side. I do apologise if I sound out of breath. I've got, I have been consistently sick for about a month now with COVID and the flu, and I just got sick again the other day, so I'm feeling really breathless at the moment. So I will just bear with me if I have to stop and catch my breath. So I'm just heating this up till the embossing powder melts, because this is what is going to create our resist so that we can ink blend straight over the top. So I have just blended that. It does buckle a little bit, but when it cools down it should be fine. Okay, so then I'm going to pull in some of my blending brushes, and I do have a lot of inks that I'm using. So these are all the inks I've pulled out. I may not use all of them, but this is a selection I've got. So that's Pacific Point, Shaded Spruce, Tahitian Tide, Starry Sky, Night of Navy, and Coastal Cabana. So I'm going to start with some Shaded Spruce, and I'm just going to pull in. I've got a blending brush for like my dark greens, my light greens, my dark blues, etc. And I'm just going to circle this pad lightly, and I like to start onto the paper so that stops when you first start, you will get a big blob. So it's cool to just start off the paper a little bit and take off that initial bit of ink. So I'm just going to apply some ink to a couple of spots. Now you can go back and add more, so it doesn't matter too much how you go to start off with. Now I'll close that up. Now I'm going to come in, I might do some Coastal Cabana. So this is all about layering inks. Now if you've used the brush and you feel like there's some leftover colour from a colour you've used before, just rub it off slightly. Now I'm going to add a little bit of this Coastal Cabana. I think there's been a bit of Bermuda Bay on here, but that's okay. So I'll add a couple of spots of that. Then I'm going to come in with my Tahitian Tide. Now this is a new pad, so I feel like this one's really inky. But you can definitely see the difference there from the Coastal Cabana. Now you can, the big tip I have when you're doing this is to blend over the top of the previous colour to get those colours really moving. You can apply the light colour over the top of the whole piece, because we're going to go back over the top and apply the darker colours, which will take precedence over the lighter colour you've applied there beforehand. So I'm just going to add a little bit of Pacific Point in a couple of areas. Then I think I'm going to go in with my Starry Sky. So I love this new colour. I love the Starry Sky. I'm just going to apply a little bit. I find with blending brushes that it may look a bit patchy, but as you leave it for a little bit, it tends to blend a bit more. So don't fret if it's looking a bit patchy, because I find that once you leave it for a little bit, it does blend a bit more. And this is where I get really inky fingers when I'm doing this, but it's all part of the fun. So just keep adding as you wish. Now I think I'm going to come back over with some Tahitian Tide, just to add over the top of some of these darker colours to blend them out. Now I'm pretty happy with that now. So I've got my bluey greeny background, which is a lot of fun. Now a tip I have is to grab a bit of paper towel. That's the one thing I forgot, so just give me 2 seconds. Okay, I'm back, and with some paper towel. Now the reason I do this is because with the white embossing there will be a little bit of ink left on top, so if you rub your bit of paper towel over the top, that will remove that ink that's sitting on top of that embossing. So as you can see, it's removed that ink. So that's how you get a more vibrant wave back. So now what I'm going to do is create the white dots that are in my background. I love doing this. So all I have done is taken some of the craft stamping ink in the white, and on a little block I have poured some on, and then I've taken, this is one of my old water painters, but these are a new ones. So I've just got an old one which I actually dedicate to doing this. So I'm just going to pour a little bit of water off to the side because I don't want it to be super wet. I just want enough water to go in there to make it so that it's going to work for what I'm doing. I'm just going to add a little bit more because I think I watered it down a little bit too much. Now I've got some of my brush, and I'm going to use the lid just to start tapping that onto my background. And this sort of creates a starry sky. That's the look I'm going for anyway. So I think that's enough. So I've got, and I'm just going to pour the water through, but you do probably want to go rinse that in the sink, and I will do that after, as well as your block, because that's a pigment ink. So it does get pretty messy. You can actually just wipe that off as well. I'm just going to wipe the ink that's gone onto my desk because that does like to get on everything. Okay, so then you would leave that to dry. It will take a little bit because it is a pigment ink. So what I have done is I've gone and created another one that you can see the sky finished. So there we've got our pre-prepared earlier. So the next step is to go and stamp some little birds in my background. So I have taken the tiny little bird stamp from my background, and I'm just going to grab a little tiny block and some Memento ink. You could do this after you've done your palm trees as well for placement, but I'm just going to stamp them now. So I've got my little bird stamped, and then I want these cute little palm trees. So I'm going to take a scrap of basic black, and I'm going to prepare that up for my palm tree. So I'm just going to add a little bit of my embossing buddy and then take the palm tree. So I want both stems and both of the singular tops of the palm trees. So I want these stamps here, and I want to take one of my bigger blocks, which I'll put one on each side, I think, and I'll do the same with these. Now I'm going to bring back my Versamark ink. I'm just going to ink those up nicely, and I'm going to stamp each in the Versamark ink. Now I don't want to stamp them too close together either, because I am going to die cut these out. So you want to leave enough room around the edges for your die cutting. Okay, so that should be good. And I'm going to heat emboss these ones in some copper, which copper is honestly a colour that I do not use enough of, but when I saw the copper on this colour background, it looked beautiful. And particularly on the black, because I usually will heat emboss white on black, but I enjoyed doing something a little bit different. So I'm just going to tip that off. So there's my copper embossing on my trees. And now I'm just going to heat emboss these with my heat gun again. So I'll just give that a second to heat up. It looks so gorgeous, embossed on the black. And stick around to the end of the video, because I do have a different sample for you with something a little bit different as well, to show you another variety a variety, another take on it as well. Okay, so that's our embossed palm trees done. Now we do have dies that go along with this bundle, which is really handy. So no fussy cutting required. So we've got one for all of those. Now I wonder if I pop these to the side, I may be able to reach over and bring my machine in. I call my machine Gerard. He has a name. And I do apologise because I'm using something that is no longer available and I'm really sad about it, but the magnetic plate, I didn't have any problems with mine and I loved it. So I am using that. However, you could use washi tape to help hold these down as well. So I'm just going to place my washing machine in the background. Sounds like it's about to take off, so I hope you can't hear that. Okay, I think that's good. Now I'm just going to place my mat over the top and run those through my machine. I think I'm borderline needing new plates because they are very buckled now. Okay, so I'll pull all of those off. I'll move my machine out of the way. So we've got our little palm trees here. I'll pop all those dies to the side. Okay, so here comes the fun part of assembling the card. So I'm going to take my pre-prepared background and I'm going to start arranging. So I want one of my palm trees to be a little bit shorter than the other. So I'm going to apply some glue to the curved palm tree, and I'm going to stick this one up a little bit higher than the other. So I'm just going to add my glue, and then I've got the one that's more straight. Now I'm not applying glue to the whole thing because the whole thing is not going to be visible on the card. Now I'm just going to stick that one down, and then I can actually trim the bottoms of these now and discard those, and I can actually stick this down to my layer of black. I apologise if you can hear my son. It's school holidays here in Australia at the moment and he's being really loud. Okay, so I've got some dimensionals. I'm just using my edges. Don't ever chuck away those edges. They're fantastic. So I'm going to stick my bigger palm tree just there. That bird's a little bit covered, but it's kind of cute. It actually looks like it's flying behind the palm tree. And then my smaller one here. Isn't that adorable? Now I can actually go ahead and stick my layer here to my background. So I'm just going to cut some more of these edges. Look, we might even use up a whole sheet. I love the feeling of using up a whole sheet of dimensionals. Okay. So I've just removed all the backings and I can stick that to my card base and just center it on there. Rightio. Now the next thing we want to do is go and stamp our sentiment. So once again, I'm going to bring in a scrap of black and I'm just going to prepare that. And I want to take the sentiment from the Waves of Inspiration and I'm going to use the one that says, "Our friendship is a thing of beauty." I'll tell you what, I have used this particular sentiment loads. I love it. I'm just going to use that on, what's this, a H block. I'm going to ink that up with our Versamark again. So this card has 3 lots of heat embossing. Can you tell that I love heat embossing? particularly black on white. If you look at or if you know my card samples, you'll see that I do a lot of white and black heat embossing. I love it. It's so bold. Okay, so I'll just go in and add my embossing powder to that sentiment. There's just a magic to heat embossing, I think. Beautiful. Okay, so I'll put my white away and then heat up my heat tool once again. Then we'll just okay, so that's pretty good. Now I'm just gonna go, actually I might use my trimmer. Sometimes I use my little guillotine, but that's, oh, it's not available to purchase, but I love it for this job. But I might use my trimmer, and this is gonna do my head in because I don't actually usually use the trimmer, so it's gonna be different to line that up, isn't it? I think that's good. It's funny how you get used to one. Okay, that's good. I was worried I was going to chop it in half or something. Okay, so that's our sentiment. So then each end I'm just going to cut it on an angle like that. And then I can add a little bit of glue to the sentiment. I just want to stick that over the top of both palm trees. So just hold it for a second until it is tacky. Then I'm going to add some sequins. I'll show you the sequins in a minute, but what I like to do when I'm adding sequins is I actually like to add the glue a little bit before adding the sequins, because with this particular glue, it tends to take a second to go tacky. So you're best when you're adding sequins to add it a little bit beforehand. And the sequins I'm using are so adorable. I think they're called So Fancy or something. They don't have labels on the tubs, but they come in 3. So I think it's 27 Australian dollars and you get 3 whole tubs, and they're big tubs. So they come in a blue, a pink and a green. I love them. And they're not just sequins, they've got little pearls and stuff in them. So when I'm applying these, I find it easier to take your pick tool. This is so handy, this tool, because it's got a little pokey tool which comes out and it's like a palette knife. And then this end, it's actually got another tool as well, which is a scoring tool. Then this end's a putty end, which is so handy for picking up sequins. So I find it easier to tip some in the lid so you've got less to work with than dipping into the whole tub. And then when you've got your putty out, they're upside down, I just flick them with my finger. And then I pop them onto the glue, and if you need to, I use my fingernail, but if you need to, it's handy to have this end open as well. And I'll show you why. So I might stick a gold one, and then I hold it with my fingernail and use that little end there to hold it down. So I'm going to continue adding some sequins. So fingernail, use that end to hold it down. I actually realized I wasn't going to add gold, but that's okay. Pick up another one, and then I might add this one down here. And then because I've added gold, I may as well add another. Add that. And then we might add another blue one. Oops. Like that. Super adorable. And then you can just tip them back in and close the lid. Now the other thing I was going to do is add some Wink of Stella. So I love Wink of Stella. Well, I love glitter. So I'm just going to shimmer that over the background. So it adds another dimension to that sky there. You could probably do that before you add it onto the card actually, but I don't mind. I don't mind extra sparkle. So that's the outside of the card done. let's make a fun inside. And this is really super simple. But what I'm going to do is bring in my little sheet of paper we had before. And I just want to pull out my bit of paper towel because I just want to pull off that ink that's on there. Now I want to take my piece of white and then I'm going to pull back in the Paradise Palms set, and what I want is this set of 3 palm trees there. So this card, this inside is really simple but effective. So I'm going to pop that on a block and then bring in some Memento ink and just ink that up in Memento, and then I want to stamp this to the bottom right hand side so that we have some black palm trees. I'm just going to remind myself of that as a sentiment. Yeah, I did. Okay, so then I want to bring back in my blending brushes and I'm going to add some ink right over the top of my black. So I'm going to add some shaded spruce. So same deal, just start the ink off on the paper. So I've added some shaded spruce, and then I might add some Tahitian Tide. And then lastly, I might add a little bit of Starry Sky. So this is back to the fun ink blending. So that might do. Just a little bit of colour down there over those palm trees is really fun. And then I'm going to go ahead and add a sentiment, which I'm going to come in and add the sentiment, you're so totally awesome. So grab that one and I'll get another block and just some Memento ink. I'll ink that up. And I'm just going to stamp that a little bit, probably in the center. And then I can now grab some glue and adhere that to my piece of black. And then I'll add some adhesive to my piece of black. And that can go into the center of my card for a fun inside. So how cool is that? They're 2 cards featuring a lot of the ink layering with the blending brushes. So this is made with lots of blues and greens and the copper embossed palm trees. But I did make another. So this one here features the pinks and oranges, and can you tell the palm trees are different? They're embossed in gold. So you can emboss the palm trees in whatever color you like and change up the colors to however you like. So it was really fun. I also did the inside of this one and just did that in different colors. So a lot of fun to ink blend and layer the colors together. I hope you enjoyed my video. Be sure to go check out the next video in the hop below, which is all in the video description. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.